South of downtown Phoenix and miles from Sky Harbor Airport, the Ann Ott Elementary School closed its doors to children over a decade ago. But its newest tenants are changing that.
Hi there, Stanford. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us at the Welcome Center.
Now called the Welcome Center, the International Rescue Committee turned it into a shelter for asylum-seeking families in transit through Phoenix. It leases the building from the Phoenix Elementary School District for $500 a month. Community Engagement Director Stanford Prescott gave us a tour.
So here at the Phoenix Welcome Center, we welcome families who are released by the federal government. They all have sponsors somewhere in the U.S., and what we provide is emergency humanitarian assistance to help them along their way. Food, shelter, legal orientation, medical screening, and we also make sure that they are able to arrange travel to visit their families in places in other parts of the United States.
So a former school that's been repurposed that had the right bones to support these needs.
Exactly.
The first weekend it opened in late July, the shelter welcomed 30 asylum seekers belonging to 12 families. All of them left with a clean set of clothes, hygiene products, and toys for children, items donated and organized in what the IRC calls the Ropa Room.
I know you just opened, but what has been some of the response when the families walk in here and see that they can essentially pick from anything they need?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of gratitude from the families. Again, they have been through a lot. They're fleeing violence in their home countries. They've made a difficult and sometimes dangerous journey through Mexico to arrive here. They've been in detention facilities here in the U.S., which aren't necessarily the safest. And then they are finally here, and so we may be the first friendly, welcoming face that they have seen in weeks. And so we try and make sure that this is as warm and hospitable as possible.
The IRC collaborates with several other non-governmental organizations to run the Welcome Center, and its work renovating the building remains far from finished.
So given that this is an old school, you've repurposed a lot of the rooms, what's this one that we're about to go in?
Yeah, so we're building out the school in 2 phases, and we've currently completed phase 1, and this will be part of our phase 2 area. This is a sleeping room.
This room is set up as an example for what 14 other sleeping rooms will resemble once new sprinkler systems are installed. The IRC expects work will wrap by the end of the month, increasing capacity at the shelter from 70 to 277 people. Each room has enough cots to sleep 10 people and multiple families.
I know there's always a liability when you have multiple families or people who don't know each other. Now they're in a close, confined space. How do you go about ensuring that people are safe and comfortable in a room like this?
Yeah, so we do have 24/7 staffing here at the site, and so there will always be bilingual staff here to answer any questions or deal with any issues that may arise. We did not have any of those sorts of issues when we were doing shelter operations at different sites where families were interacting with each other on a regular basis. We did not have any sort of those negative interactions.
Other renovations include installing showers, creating more play areas, and setting up a functioning kitchen. For now, St. Vincent de Paul prepares and delivers hot food, and much of the shelter's activity is concentrated in the cafeteria, where families currently sleep and register with volunteers and staff. Colorings by migrant children decorate the room and are a reminder of the families helped by the IRC.
You know, I think to me what it symbolizes is that these children do bring a lot of talent with them. It also, to me, it symbolizes that these kids are kids. I think that's something that gets lost in our debates around immigration and asylum, is that at the end of the day, these are normal children, these are normal parents, these are human beings, and they are just trying to live a life in a safe country.
After our tour, we sat down and discussed the IRC's long-term plans and persisting challenges.
Much of the activity that we've seen along the southern border has been very active over the last few months, but as we know in the summer it tends to dip. Are you concerned about some of the trends that show that people aren't crossing in the numbers they were prior to this?
So that's something we expected. In past years, we've seen a decline in the amount of people arriving in the summer, and so it's not a surprise that that's happening again. For us, we see this as an investment. We expect that numbers will go back up in the fall when it cools down and families continue making that journey. And so we do want to have this space available and ready so that we can welcome those families, so that we don't get a repeat of what happened last year here in the Phoenix area, where families were just being dropped off at the Greyhound bus station.
Prescott says families at the bus station often had no food, money, or a plan for how to get to their next destination. The IRC teamed up with St. Vincent de Paul to open a day center that offered services similar to the Welcome Center. Between March and June, they helped more than 5,000 people.
Given that this is your life work and you're very proud of it, was there a sense of disappointment that perhaps the community wasn't better prepared to handle the influx?
I think that this is, certainly there was a need to handle this response in a more prepared and organized way, and that's something we've contributed to. And I do want to recognize that there have been community groups that have been doing this response for years. However, with the increase in asylum seekers, there needed to be an increase in capacity to serve them as well, and that's how the Air National Rescue Committee stepped in.
NGOs in Tucson faced a similar situation during Easter weekend, when hundreds of migrants brought to the city overwhelmed existing shelters. To prevent families from being stranded, the city of Tucson and Pima County spent thousands of dollars each to open emergency shelters. Prescott says the IRC hasn't received any financial support from the city of Phoenix or the state.
That's got to be disappointing.
It's definitely, we do think that there could be a more organized response from the state and local governments. But again, this is an opportunity to show that the Phoenix community does care about this issue, because the Phoenix community is stepping up to deal with this issue.
Okay, Stanford, thank you.
Thank you.